Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things, and you find me once again on Butt Rock Beach. That's right, except now I'm sitting on a reusable shopping bag because as I came here, it was supposedly not going to be raining today, but it was raining. It was raining rather heavily. Everything got completely soaked. I was trying to do a video out here because I have to be outside if I'm going to do anything about pipes or cigars, and this was a cigar-related video that I did. And so yeah, I had to wait around for a little bit for the rain to finally stop. It finally has. We're going to be talking about weather a little bit. We're also going to be talking about the Padron 2000, which is something that I was getting reacquainted with in the video I just recorded. But we have many other things to talk about as well, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and working. So many things to look forward to on Stuff and Things. We'll talk a little bit about that Padron 2000 Natural when we talk about upcoming videos. We're going to talk briefly about the chum run. That sounds horrible and disgusting, but it's not. It's actually a salmon run that occurs in Whatcom Creek here. We'll just briefly go over this because I was able to capture some of it on a 600mm lens with my Canon. And it's just so cool because there is a creek in the middle of Bellingham, right in downtown, Whatcom Creek. And it's just this amazing bit of nature in the middle of the city where we had a salmon run. We have a salmon run every year, thousands of chum salmon trying to work their way up this creek. Briefly touch on that. We'll talk about the rain and the weather. I know weather seems like a boring topic, but it's actually rather fascinating. People have this idea about the Pacific Northwest, and as I sit out here in the overcast, when it has been raining, people just assume the Pacific Northwest is this dark, rainy, just horrible place. Well, I don't know if people think it's horrible, but people think as far as weather-wise, it's horrible. And I'm gonna maybe debunk some of those myths. And then of course we have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings. So let's get into it. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. The water is lapping right at my feet here. The tide is high, but I'm holding on, and I'm gonna be your number one. So we have things to discuss here. Upcoming videos on Stuff and Things and working. First of all, we may switch the order of this around a little bit. I was gonna do the Pilot Custom 823 9 years later fountain pen video, but I may switch that with the Cordobes boots video that I recorded because they sent these to me for free, and I feel like to be nice, I should get that video out sooner rather than later. So we might do the box opening first impressions video of these Cordobes Chelsea boots, which I'm wearing right now. Then we're gonna have Pipe Force episode 3. Very interesting blend, one that I was quite intrigued by. Then we'll probably have the Pilot Custom 823 9 years later video. And then we will have a video of me reconnecting, can you even see this, with the Padron 2000 Natural, which I just recorded. So lots of stuff there, and then I have so many other things. I've just got this huge queue of videos for Stuff and Things that I just wish there were more hours in the day. I wish there were more days in the week so I could get these videos posted. But yeah, a lot coming up. And then working, we have working episode 39 from start to finish. So we're doing an entire job, a smaller job, but you get to see it from the very beginning. The setup, then you get to see the pour, then you get to see stripping and cleaning everything up. So that's a fun video, so make sure you check that out. Now, briefly going over the Padron, because I don't want to ruin the video that I just recorded. I hadn't had one of these babies for maybe 5 years. And we had been talking about the Toscanos recently, and I was really enjoying those, enjoying having a burning stick for the first time in quite a while. And I really liked the flavor profile of those too. They seemed kind of pipey. They had a dark-fired Kentucky kind of flavor to them. So I was thinking, I was really enjoying the Toscanos. Will I still enjoy the Padrones as much as I did back in the past? And if you know anything about my history with burning sticks, I've had maybe 20 different burning sticks, different kinds of burning sticks in my life. The one I've had the most by far is the Padron 2000, and it's the one that I really keyed in on as kind of my favorite. And I think it's because there's just this dry, earthy, spicy, I don't know, maybe less strong and less overpowering quality to these. And I remembered them just being absolutely delightful. But like I said, I hadn't had one in a long time, so I decided to bring one out with me. I've had this one probably for 5 years, maybe 6 years in a humidor. I don't have an actual humidor. I have a Tupperware container with Boveda packs inside there. It seems to work fine. So yeah, I brought this out, I fired it up, and yeah, I really, really like Padrones. I think partially it's that they're relatively inexpensive compared to other burning sticks, but there's just something about the flavor profile. I've had a lot of other burning sticks that people consider really, really good. And to me, I don't mind the heaviness of those different brands, but sometimes it's just a little much. And especially because you kind of have to finish one in one setting. The Padron is just the perfect ratio of strength and oomph to it. Just delicious. So be sure to check out that video. It'll be coming up in a few weeks where I really go over my thoughts a little bit more and kind of go through the different flavor profiles, the different things that I'm tasting in that burning stick. Fantastic. Okay, but now gang, I just want to show you a couple pictures I took when I was going out, checking out the Chum Run in Whatcom Creek. I had been walking by in the afternoon. I didn't have my long lens. I just had my 35mm little Fuji digital camera the first day, and there were a bunch of seals in the creek, gnawing on fish. I didn't even realize the Chum Run was going on. I always thought it was a little later in the year. And so I was like, okay, next day I'm gonna bring my Canon, I'm gonna bring my 600mm lens, and I'm gonna get some really good pictures of the seals. That was the main thing I wanted to picture, or wanted to capture. And then when I came, it was kind of in the morning the next day, and I don't know when seals typically feed, but there was only one seal, and he wasn't really doing much. So I wasn't able to capture much with the seals. But I got some interesting kind of abstract black and white captures, super close-up pictures of the chum struggling their way up the creek. And the creek has been very high. We've had a lot of rain, and so it's running really hard. And I just feel so sorry for these poor fish because I just can't imagine any of them making it up. They're fighting, and they just don't seem to be getting anywhere. But I got some interesting pictures of those guys. I wanted something kind of a little more abstract. And then I just ran into these deer that were just, feet away from me on the trail in this creek. And again, remember, this creek is right in the middle of downtown Bellingham. It's in the middle of a city. And it's just so cool that you have this little bit of wildlife there. And so I captured some really close-up pictures of these deer. The deer around in Bellingham are just completely fearless. They don't care about people at all because people don't do anything to them. Some people actually feed them. And so I could get really close to these deer and get some really cool shots. I'll be showing you some of those shots right now. And then there were some mallard ducks who were also just completely unafraid, and they were out in the creek, and I got some really good pictures of some of those ducks as well. So, didn't get the seals like I wanted. I may try to go this weekend again if the weather is somewhat decent and try to get some more shots if the salmon are still running, if the seals are still there feeding. But it was a pretty cool day, and I was able to get some really cool shots. I hadn't done a lot of wildlife stuff recently, so it was fun to do that again. Okay, but now we're going to talk about the rain a little bit, or just the weather in general. People have this stereotype about the Pacific Northwest that it is just, for 9 months of the year, completely overcast, completely rainy. If you watch something like Sleepless in Seattle, they just talk about it rains so much, it rains and rains and rains. Last Saturday, and recently I've been thinking, my God, it sure is raining a lot. And I guess some of that has to do with the fact that if I'm gonna do anything pipe related, it has to be outside now. And also, since I do photography all the time, I wanna be out taking pictures, and when it just is overcast and rainy, it's kind of tough to do that. But last Saturday, I went out with some friends, and we were out pretty late. I don't usually go out very often, and I don't usually stay out very late. But that day, we were out very late. And I think we were leaving the bar at around like 1:30 in the morning or something. And the heavens opened. It started raining so hard. And I only had to walk a few blocks to get home. But by the time I got home, like I was wearing this hat, the bill had just melted over my face. It was so sodden wet. all my clothes. I had a pretty good like rain mac on the top of me, but my pants were completely soaked through. I was just absolutely as though you had just sprayed me with a hose for 20 minutes. Absolutely crazy. And so it's like, my God, that was a lot of rain. I want to look up how much rain we got. So there is a story from King News. This is author Alison Sundell. A storm brought record-breaking rainfall to the Bellingham area and drenched the rest of the Puget Sound over the weekend. Here's how much rain fell across the region. Bellingham saw the most rain among the lowland gauges, recording 2.12 inches of rain on Sunday. So that's late Saturday night, so early Sunday morning. It got 2.12 inches of rain. And it shattered the previous daily rainfall record of 1.75 inches set in 1985. So Bellingham, Washington, a place where it's supposed to rain all the time, supposed to get a ton of rain, its record was 1.75 inches from 1985, and the new record is 2.12 inches in one day. So I just thought, okay, that actually doesn't seem like that much rain. I looked up the rainfall record for one day in New York City. 8.28 inches. Well more than Bellingham has ever gotten in one day. Phoenix, Arizona receives an average of 7.22 inches of rain per year. It's the second driest large city in the US. Bellingham gets an average of around 39 inches of rain a day. So yes, a lot more than Phoenix, or not a day, in a year. So a lot more than Phoenix, but less than places like Chicago, New York, Houston, Texas. They all get more actual precipitation in a year than Bellingham does. There are also 157.6 rainy days average annually a year in Bellingham. So, okay, that's a lot of days where it rains in Bellingham, but Syracuse, New York gets 172 rainy days. Buffalo, New York gets 167. Erie, Pennsylvania gets 162. Rochester, New York, 162. Seattle gets 156, so Bellingham beats Seattle by a little bit. But Seattle and Bellingham are all lower than those East Coast areas. So where does this idea come from that the Pacific Northwest is just rainy all the time? It's always raining. I think the thing is, it's the overcast days, the days without sun. So on the average, there are 71 sunny days, 93 partly sunny days, and 201 cloudy days a year in Bellingham, Washington. And Bellingham was determined to be, let's see, I had this written down somewhere, but I can't find it now. Well, anyway, Bellingham is the city in the US that has the least amount of sunlight a year, as far as like a city. I think there might be some smaller towns that get less sunlight. So I think that's where it comes from. We don't get a huge amount of accumulation of rain. When it does rain, typically it's like what I was getting today, where it's just kind of overcast and drizzly. You don't get a huge amount of accumulation. When it rains hard in Bellingham, it's probably not very hard compared to other places, maybe on the East Coast or in more tropical areas. And on the day where I was like, oh my God, the heavens have opened, it has rained so much, we got 2.12 inches, which is nothing compared to the record in New York. Now, that New York record, it was probably from like a hurricane or something that might have hit New York. We don't get hurricanes here, but I think you get the idea. It doesn't rain as much as people think in the Pacific Northwest. I probably shouldn't say this because we don't need, hundreds of thousands of more people moving here. There are too many people here as it is right now, but the weather's pretty perfect here. Yes, for 9 months out of the year, it's pretty overcast and pretty gray. The days get really short in the winter. You wake up, you go to work, it's dark. You come home from work, it's dark. Yes, but in the summer, it never really gets dark. It could be 2 in the morning in the middle of summer and there will still be light on the horizon. It's because we're pretty far north. I think it's pretty perfect here. It's not as rainy as people think. All right, gang, but now it is time for hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at @SATBradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings, and I will do my best to answer your question. You can also leave me a message via Patreon. If you are a Patreon supporter, you'll go right to the front of the line. You can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line. or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback under my YouTube videos in the comment section. We have a missive from @Gwynley5925 who says, I enjoyed the magazine of your street photos. It came to me in the UK from Finland. Thanks so much for ordering that. Again, I don't get any money from that, but if you want to check out a zine of some of my spring, summer street photography pictures in Bellingham, Washington, there is still a link in the description box below. I think if you're in the US, it gets shipped from Seattle. And if you're, I guess, if you're in Europe, it comes from Finland. I wasn't totally sure about that, but that seems to be the case. So thank you, Gwynley, for checking that out. The rest of you, check that out as well. We also have @ChrisCoffee. So Chris was talking again about the scary movie thing that I was talking about a couple weeks ago. Thinking that scary things can't happen to you seems to me to presuppose materialism. So he means the philosophical idea of materialism. So materialism, if I can remember my college philosophy, is basically just saying that anything that's real has to have a material basis. So there has to be some sort of atomic or subatomic basis for something happening. So if you feel something, it's not some supernatural soul thing. It's something that has to be able to be explained by actual physical things that are happening within the universe. Vaguely, I know somebody can correct me on that. So then Chris says, but given materialism, God, the devil, angels, and demons are real. This is why I asked about walking away from faith a while ago. Interesting, Chris. Chris has been a Patreon supporter in the past and everything. Great guy. Love Chris. I don't think that necessarily follows that if you presuppose materialism, that then God, the devil, and angels and demons must be real. Materialism suggests that anything that is real must have a material basis. But it's still debatable whether angels and demons are real. So if it's debatable that they're real, then that doesn't mean that they're explained by materialism. I don't know, maybe I'm missing your argument there. And I'm not gonna say I don't believe that gods or the angels exist. I'm saying I don't believe in ghosts for sure. There is no evidence ever that ghosts are real. I've never seen any compelling evidence whatsoever that ghosts exist. If there was actual evidence that ghosts existed, and I'm not even sure that I'm a materialist anyway. I think I've never seen any evidence for anything supernatural, but that doesn't mean that supernatural things for sure don't exist. I'm maybe 99% sure they don't exist. But anyway, interesting discussion. We have some feedback from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is from @Zigmeister67. First tin of Peterson Elizabethan. Very interesting and a pleasant sour taste. I never thought I'd enjoy a vapor. Great video, and thanks for the content. Just wanted to include that because I love it when people like Elizabethan. @Robbie7441 says, hey, talking about pipe tea, here in Ireland it is nearly impossible to get pipe tea. The only place I can find it is in Peterson in Dublin, but they only sell 40-gram pouches at a cost of around 35 euros, so I do not buy there. Being in Europe, I cannot buy from another European country because they're not allowed to ship, so I have to drive from Dublin to Belfast to a teaist there, where I pick up about 5 or 6 tins. Cigarettes here in Ireland are around 18 euros a pack, so a lot of people here buy counterfeit cigs. Governments do not want people essing or drinking, what I can see, especially here in Ireland. They definitely don't want people essing. Drinking they don't seem to care about, at least in the US. They're perfectly happy with people getting drunk and acting like maniacs, but the minute you light up a pipe, Lord no. @Night Train Piper says, but you could grow, sell, and S pot no problem in Washington State. Marijuana is everyone's friend, being sarcastic. Not sure if you can grow and sell tea there, though. I don't know about all the laws for, like, marijuana is legalized here. I think you can grow and, I don't know about selling, but you can grow for personal use a certain amount. I don't know exactly how it works. But you can grow tea here, too, if you want to. I think there's no law against that as long as you're not doing it on, like, an industrial scale. So, yeah, if you want to try doing that, I guess it would grow fine here. You would think you would need kind of a drier climate, but I've heard of people doing it. We have another comment here from a name that is almost impossible for me to figure out. It's about 26 characters long, so we will say Anísia Oficial, something like that. They say, boa legal, gostei de camiseta, obrigado pelo video, que está muito bacana. Muito obrigado. Now, I'm not going to like Sutliff Maple Shadows 2 feedback. @the CT Pipe says, I like your pipe and tea review discussion. I really don't like the openings with the finger pointing and the constant hand gesturing. So I typically skip through all of that. But the actual tea discussion is very good. I love that people leave comments like this. Thank you for the comment. It's just so funny that people will say to a stranger, like, I really hate the hat you're wearing, but I still like, I don't know, the shoes that you have on. Like, it's just so funny to me. Yes, I make hand gestures. I remember in high school, somebody really getting on me for this. And that was the first time I was ever made aware that I make hand gestures. I have this sort of broad way of gesturing when I'm speaking. Sorry, it's just what I do. At I'm just here to grill 9260 says, history has been made. So I enjoyed Maple Shadows 2 and Aromatic, and people were rather shocked by that. At Paisano Piper says, I'm with you. I'm not an Arrow fan, but I like this one. Was tea forward with a very, very light maple topping that isn't cloyingly sweet. Exactly, and the maple complemented the natural tea flavors. It didn't distract from them or detract from them. At our good friend Colin Kelly 279 says, I will admit, it is strangely fascinating. I have all the premier topped blends like Cult and Trout Stream and the Lanes, but I never find them pleasing at all after the initial draw or two. Perhaps if I stumble into a can of this, I may also enjoy. Not going to be one I chase, but good to see it met your acceptable range. And yeah, and I've had Cult, I've had a couple of those, well, I haven't had Trout Stream, but I've had a couple of other arrows that people consider really great. Oh wait, I think my exposure is really bad here again. It's not bad. And this one it just worked. It worked for me. I try to have an open mind. I typically don't like arrows, but Maple Shadows 2, it worked. So if you can get your hands on it, you might like it. And then finally, at Pablo Nam Picasso 1977 says, oh my God, confliction. It's like Bizarro Superman has crossed the nexus and popped that tin of Sutliff and is sitting on the porch with Lois Lane. I like some aromatics, but so much of it seems to be flavors trying to disguise low-quality teas with topping and or Cavendish. Only occasionally do I find something that tastes smoky, smooth, and is slightly sweet or fruity. Thanks for the review. And yeah, go check out that review. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's not going to compete with something like my favorite Elizabethan, but it's good. It works. So well done, Sutliff, on Maple Shadows 2. My God, the wind is picking up. It's getting cold. Feels like it's going to rain again, so we probably should cut this short. Thank you all for that feedback. Please keep it coming in. Really helps make the show go. But now, it's time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Can you still hear me with all this wind and the waves and everything? Every week, we like to shout out the people who support us on Patreon because basically that's why I'm able to do this show. If you guys like this stuff, if you like these videos, if you like the Wednesday videos, if you like the things I discuss on this channel, the pretty much only way to support me is to support the channel on Patreon. There is a link in the description box below, and you know, any amount. We're trying to get 100 $5 supporters. That would be fantastic. There's apparently something weird going on with Patreon now where they're changing to subscription billing, and I have not been able to figure out exactly what that means. I think that just means that once you sign up, if you're signing up like through Apple phones, it might do something weird. I don't know exactly, but it might just be when you get billed. You might get billed right away and then a month after you first signed up, as opposed to it being on the first of the month. I don't think it's gonna make any difference to you, but if you are gonna support on Patreon, I would recommend doing it not through the Patreon app on an Apple phone. I would do it through the actual Patreon website. I think that just makes it easier. I don't know exactly what's going on, but every week we shout out those who support the channels on Patreon, the producers, the people who support us at $25 or more a month. People like Glenn Dunnington, Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, Jonathon Proctor, Charles Mowers, and the Friendly Piper. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month, people like Bob Magee and our good friend Ryan McFadin. And we'll never forget our Hall of Fame member and dearly departed friend, Peter Straub. Gang, please stay tuned for all the good stuff coming up on both channels. Like I said, there are so many videos that I have in the queue, and I'm trying to get through them all. I think I'm like 4 videos ahead now because I had to keep just recording videos to try to get through all these things that I need to tell you about. So please, stay tuned, check it all out. Thanks so much for watching. I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. Brr. Oh, butt rock. Oh, Lord. That's gonna leave a mark.